If you want to learn CapCut, but worry that a 15-minute tour of random features will still leave you wondering what to do when you sit down to edit a real video, then this video is for you. Learning CapCut doesn't mean memorizing a whole list of features. The real skill is knowing what to do in what order every time you sit down to edit a video. That's why over the next 40 minutes, I'm going to teach you my complete 10-step video editing workflow so you know exactly how to turn raw video footage into a polished professional YouTube video, without missing the essential steps that separate an amateur edit from a professional one. CapCut is one of the most beginner-friendly editing programs available, but it's also so powerful. You can create professional-looking videos fast without the steep learning curve of more complicated editing software. And even if you've never edited a video before, don't worry, I'll explain every tool and every term as we use it. We'll begin by installing the right version of CapCut, organizing your project files, and configuring several critical settings that most tutorials completely ignore. I'll also show you how to download my sample 4K video files so you can make every edit right alongside me instead of simply watching. Those first setup steps are straightforward, so we'll move through them pretty quickly. Once that foundation is in place though, we'll focus on the core editing techniques and decisions that improve your video's picture, sound, pacing, and overall presentation. Then we'll export a high-quality master file and back up the entire project so you never lose work that took hours to create. And I'm not just going to point at some buttons and tell you what they do. I'll show you where each feature fits inside a real editing workflow so you understand not only how to use it, but when and why. By the end of this video, you'll know where CapCut's features are, and you'll understand how they work together inside a repeatable 10-step workflow you can use on every video you create. So let's get into it. Okay, welcome to the CapCut Quick Start. The first thing we're going to do is install CapCut, and there is a link in the description and first comment. Before we jump over there though, I want to have a quick talk about protecting your intellectual property. I've seen many comments in other CapCut demo videos where people say they will never use CapCut because doing so gives away your rights to CapCut. So I do want to call out this paragraph in their terms of service. And you can see here it says, but by submitting your user content, you acknowledge and agree that you allow us and hereby grant us and our affiliates and agents and services unconditional, irrevocable, non-exclusive, royalty-free, fully transferable, perpetual worldwide license to use. But here's the key. Editing using CapCut Desktop is not the same as posting a video to CapCut.com. When you use the mobile app and CapCut.com, that's where this paragraph applies, not when you're using CapCut Desktop with local files. So I just wanted to call that out to prevent the misinformation I see in a lot of comments. So for now, click on this link, and that opens a new page at CapCut.com. Click on Download for Free, and that's going to initiate a download for this CapCut Desktop installer. And once you get that, you will simply open it and run it. And when it's done, it will open the CapCut application into the project management view. And then somewhere in the interface, like at the top left here, you'll find a link to click on to activate the Pro features. Click on the button to sign up for that. You obviously won't have all these projects, but you can see that I use CapCut as my main video editor. And again, I highly recommend using CapCut and purchasing the Pro subscription because it's so powerful and it'll save you so much time. And you're going to see that in a few minutes. Okay, now that we have CapCut installed and open, it's time to create a project folder. Most computers are going to have one hard drive, and on Windows machines, it's called the C drive. I also happen to have a second drive called my D drive, and both of these are on my physical computer. In addition to those two drives, I have 4 external drives as well. I've got a pair of personal drives, A and B, and a pair of work drives, A and B as well. And the way this works is, I create folders on my A drive and do work there, and then when I'm done, I'll make a copy of that folder to the B drive. So in that way, I'm backing up my work here on my local computer. So you need to make a decision where you're going to put your project folder. If you only have one drive, you don't have much choice. Now in my case, I'm going to go out here to my work drive and right-click and create a new folder called Video Projects here. And I'll just name this CapCut Sample Project. So I'll double-click on that, and this is our project folder that I'm talking about right here, Create a Project Folder. Now, if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to show you how you can download my sample 4K video files. You can skip this step if you just want to watch the video, but I encourage you to get the files and practice along with me, because only by putting your hands on the tool will you really learn how it all works. So I'm back here on independentcreatoracademy.com/CapCut, and step 3 here is get my practice video files using the download files button below. So go ahead and click on that green button right there, and you can see that this is free, and all you need to do is put in an email address. So I won't spam you, just go ahead and put an email address in here, but if you would like to hear updates from me about the creator economy and how to best generate attention, authority, and income, go ahead and subscribe to my email list. Next, click on sign up for free, and then it will prompt you to put in your first name, last name, and a password. So I'll put in Brian Lamb, my password, and click on create my account. That will take you directly inside my Independent Creator Academy portal in the products area. And notice when you click up here, you are currently signed in. And you can get back here by signing in using that same email and password, and then clicking on my library, and then click here to view the product. Now that we're viewing the product, you can see we've got download buttons for the A-roll files and the B-roll files. So go ahead and click on each of these, and you'll see that it will start a download in your browser. So once the download is done, click on your downloads folder, and then what you're going to do, double click on it, and once you're inside, click here to drag the B-roll over here to this folder to do the extraction automatically during the copy. Now when I hit the refresh icon, you can see I have the A-roll folder, the B-roll folder, and this watch first video. Okay, now it's time to launch CapCut and configure some settings. And again here, I've got some secret tips for you that nobody else talks about. Let's take a look. So the way that I open CapCut is to click on my Start menu and type CAP, and you see CapCut appears right there. I have also right-clicked on here and pinned that to my taskbar, and that icon is right there, so I can very easily open it by simply clicking on this icon in my taskbar. Once CapCut is open, bear in mind that this part of the interface allows you to manage your projects and create new ones. What's very important to notice is this settings button at the very top right. When you click on the settings button, you're going to want to click on this settings menu item right there. Once you're inside settings, this save to setting is absolutely critical. By default, CapCut will save all of your video projects into one folder in some mysterious location in your documents folder. And from my 30 years in tech, that's a very bad idea. What you're going to want to do instead is click on this little folder to the right here, and then browse to the project folder you just created. So as you recall, my project folder is in my work drive, in video projects, and I'm going to double click on my sample project file. Inside here you can see A-roll and B-roll, so that's where I'm going to click on select folder. And it's important to remember that we're going to change this for every single project we work on. Anytime you create a new project folder out here in your video projects, when you open CapCut to work on that new project, always remember to go to settings and change your save to that new project folder you created. And notice that puts a CapCut drafts folder inside your sample project. The benefit of doing that is it keeps your project in the same folder as all of your video clips. I believe it's very important to keep all these things together, and this step is what allows that to happen. The next thing I want you to do is click on Performance and make sure this checkbox is selected for Proxy. That's going to allow you to edit large 4K files without your interface slowing down. I'll click on Save, and now we have completed step 3. Again, remember to change those settings for every new project. Okay, now we're going to move on and create a CapCut project and also import our files from the project folder that we created earlier. So this is the easy part. Just go ahead and click on Create Project here at the top. And now this is the first time we're seeing the CapCut video editing interface. The first thing I always do with all new projects is to click on the name up here and change that. So I'll call this CapCut Sample Project and hit Return. And now you'll see that name change reflected over here in this Properties panel under Name. And you see the path where it is stored in that project folder we just created. Now we need to import our files from our project folder into CapCut. Simply click on these folders and drag and drop them into this rectangle. I've got both of them selected. I'll click on A and drag it over. Now we see A-roll and B-roll folders have been imported. Now when you double click on A-roll, you will see all the files inside there, and then you can go backwards and click on All to get to your B-roll folder. When I click on that, we see all the files in there. So that's how you navigate between your various folders. Now that we have our files imported, it's time to lay out the A-roll storyline. And so that you can get a clear mental model of what the heck that means, I'm going to close this current project and open up a project I've already completed. So down here on the timeline, there's this darker bar. I'm going to click on that and drag it upward a little bit. And you're going to see right here is all of what I call my A-roll content. It's the main story of the video. And as I hold down my control key and scroll my mouse wheel forward, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see more. This is the A-roll, which tells the whole story. Then these things you see up here on the track above are what's called B-roll. So notice my B-roll videos are playing over the top of the A-roll. So here I'm speaking, and then my B-roll clips will present a visual while you can still hear the audio of my A-roll down beneath. So B-roll can be videos like this, or it could be effects like that where I'm drawing a circle around my shirt, or they can be even more sophisticated like this one, which is a video clip, but notice I've applied an effect to it. So as I scroll over that, you see all this wild and crazy effects before the actual video in the background shows up. Here is another video, and notice this one over here is text effects that appear. And then down below the A-roll, you can see that's where I tend to put my music track. So again, high level, this is your A-roll. Right above that is where you place your B-roll clips. And you can see even above that with CapCut, you may wind up with other effects clips and all that stuff up here at the top left. So that gives you a sense of what we're going to do. Let's go back and lay out the A-roll storyline. So to do that, I'll close out this current project, and notice that takes me back to the file management interface, and you can see that project I opened is now at the top of the list. So I'll go down here and click on CapCut Sample Project. That will take me back into the new project we're working on. So on the left side here, we see our media panel. Down here is the timeline where you know we're going to drag our clips, and then here is where we're going to see what we've dragged in. So I'll grab this black bar again to minimize this a little bit. I'll double click on my A-roll folder, and you can either click and drag these things in one at a time, or click beneath the clips and while holding your mouse button down, drag upward until you select all of them. Then grab this first one at the top left and click on that and hold the mouse button down until you get down here to the timeline. And even if you're out here to the right a little bit, you'll notice it's going to snap those clips over to the left. And notice you see they all have white outlines. That means they're all currently selected. So if you click somewhere on the timeline, that will deselect all the clips. And now if you want to zoom in and out on this timeline, you can either use the slider like this, or the plus and minus keys, or hold down your control key and use the mouse wheel on your mouse to scroll forward to zoom in and roll it backwards to zoom out. You've got a scroll bar down here to take you backwards. And as you drag your cursor over the videos, you can see kind of what's going on in the background there. To start and stop the video, click anywhere you want and then hit your space bar. Hi, I'm Brian. It's also important to note that you don't even have to click. Notice that yellow bar is following my cursor around. If I simply hover here without clicking and click on the space bar, it will start playing from the position where my cursor is. An ideal camera and microphone using just... And obviously you can click on any given clip to select it, and when you do that, you'll see information about that clip over here in this right panel. So I'll hold my control key down and scroll my mouse wheel backwards, and now we can see all 6 clips of our storyline. So now it's time to adjust the A-roll clips and audio. And the tip I was talking about here is that there is a level meter for ensuring your audio is correct. Let's go take a look. When I click on any of these clips and you look in the right panel over here, you can see we have the ability to adjust video stuff, audio stuff, speed, animation, and then a very important tab called Adjustments. So I will click on this Adjust right here, and notice we have a number of sliders. The ones that I most commonly use will be Exposure and Shadow, and sometimes Temperature. Exposure allows you to make the video brighter or darker. Shadows allows you to bring up any dark areas relative to the frame without making the other areas too bright. And then temperature allows you to adjust the overall look of the clip to be more on the blue side or more on the kind of yellow golden side. So in this case, I recorded a little bit dark, so I want to bump the exposure up just a little bit here, and I'm going to say a level 5 or 6 would be good for that. Shadows, we can do a little bit of boosting as well. We'll call that a 3. As far as temperature goes, it's pretty good how it is, so I'll leave that alone. Now it's important to realize that you don't have to go and do that for every single clip. If you have a whole series of clips that are all the same, you can click and drag to select all of them. Of course, you would zoom in or out on your timeline to make sure you can see everything first. And then once they're all selected like this, any changes you make will affect all of the clips the same way. Now in this case, I have one video clip that's different from the rest of these. So the way I would manage that would be to first click on this to memorize my settings. Notice it was 5 and 3 for exposure and shadows. Then I would drag and select everything like that, and then control click on that one to deselect it. Now I'll click in here to change my exposure to 5 and hit enter, and then click in here to change my shadow to 3 and hit enter. And now, for each of these clips that I click on, you'll see that they all have 5 and 3 respectively for their settings. But this one does not, because we didn't change that one. And now for audio. It's very important that the audio of your video is loud enough to compete with other clips on YouTube, but not too loud that it gets distorted. Our audio level is represented by this green bar down at the bottom. And you can make that larger by clicking on these 3 dots and going to the audio waveform size and setting that to like 60%. So now you can see your audio better underneath the video. Now here's that secret tip I was talking about. When you click on any clip, instead of changing the video settings, you've got this audio tab right here. And notice on the audio tab, you can change the volume. You can also fade in and fade out using these sliders. If I move this slider around, notice that white bar here on the clip is also moving. Okay? So that means you can also change the volume by using this clip. You click in there and raise it up and down. So there's 2 ways to change the audio. And many people who try to teach CapCut will tell you that if you raise the volume up and you start to see orange like that, that's too loud. Well, they are wrong in most cases. And here's what I mean by that. The secret tip I want to show you is, if you see these level meters right there next to this time code, when you click on that, it's going to open up these meters on the right side there. And I'm not a huge fan of this stupid AI thing here, so I'm just going to move that out of the way. But now notice, when I reset this clip back to 0 volume and click on play, that overall process is, watch the numbers at the top of the scale over here. Notice the scale has a 0 there and goes up to 6 right there. So I'll click my spacebar to play. Editing. Modern video editing software like CapCut is incredibly powerful, but the better your original video, and notice those numbers are hovering right around -6 to -7 to -8 looks and sounds, the better your finished video will be. And notice that the green bars are never going up to 0. Settings and the right skills, everything changes. You spend less time compensating. What you really want to do with your audio is to make sure that you get almost to the top of this scale, and that these numbers up here at most are saying -1. Try to avoid hitting 0 or going +1 or +2. Always stay at 0 at the worst case scenario or below. So what I can theoretically do is click on my control key and zoom in a little bit and look for peaks in the audio anywhere. Like that right there looks high. See, there's a little bit of orange right there. If I zoom in on that, you can see there's a little tips of orange in there. So those are louder parts of the video. So if I click before that and hit my space bar, now a big part of that overall process is we see that that only goes to -6. So what that tells me is I can select over all of these tracks and go to the audio tab, and I can raise this up by 5 decibels. If I raise it to 6 decibels, that will cause me to hit 0 on this scale. So if I go to 5 and hit enter, that's going to cause me to go to -1 on this scale. And now notice when you look at it, all of these audio clips have orange tips on them. That's a good thing. So all those people out there telling you that the orange is bad, watch this. When I click here and click play. Lighting, for example, is one of the biggest pieces of that puzzle. Using no lights at all, or just using room lights, will instantly kill credibility. You can see I'm hovering at -2, which is perfectly acceptable because once you add a little bit of music to this, that might take it to -1. So keep in mind there's going to be a cumulative effect of your voice and the music you put underneath it, so you don't want to make your voice too loud. So that's the secret professional tip I have for you for making your audio sound loud enough so that your videos don't get buried by other more professional creators. Okay, we have just adjusted the A-roll clips and ensured our audio is loud enough. Now it's time to trim the A-roll so the main storyline is tight and punchy with no excess gaps or ums and ahs and so on. Now back here in CapCut, this is one of the most important skills to learn. I'm going to press my control key and roll my mouse wheel forward to zoom in a bit and introduce you to these 3 icons at the top left of the timeline. This icon allows us to split clips, and notice you can use Control B to do that. This icon allows us to delete everything to the left of where the cursor currently is, and you can press Q to do that. Notice no control key. And this icon allows you to delete everything to the right of where the play bar is, and again, no control key. So if I hover this gold bar to the left side here and click on my space bar, 1, 2. Hi, I'm Brian. You can see I do this weird 1, 2 thing at the beginning of every clip. So what I'm going to do is move my cursor back and forth and look at my mouth position, for example. I wouldn't want to start the video right there. I'm going to pull back just a little bit, and the important thing is I don't need to click here in order to use Control B. Even if my play bar is over there, my Control B is going to take effect wherever that gold bar is hovering. So I'll press Control B right now, and notice that split the clip. Now I can click on this and hit my delete key, and the entire playlist moves to the left. The reason why everything moved to the left is because we have this main track magnet toggled on at the top right of the timeline. There's also this auto snapping feature and linkage, and all three of these things can make it easier to edit your project when you leave them toggled on. Leaving the main track magnet on is a good idea. I'm going to press Ctrl Z right now to undo that delete, and Ctrl Z one more time to undo that split. Because what I could have done, instead of splitting and then deleting, is to use this one right here, delete left. And again, wherever that gold bar is hovering is where that delete left is going to take effect. So I'm going to hover that right where that split was and press the Q key. Notice that did the split and deleted it all in one step. Similarly, at the end here, if I click here and play, video will be. Right about there is where we would want to delete the remaining part of this clip. So I can either click on that button right there to delete the right side, or I will Ctrl Z to undo that. As you recall, we can use the W key to accomplish the same thing. And the thing to be careful of here is, as I just said, even though the play bar is here, if I randomly move this gold bar around and hit the W, that delete right is going to happen somewhere else other than where that play bar was. So you have to be careful with that. I'll Ctrl Z to undo that. And now if you want that W or delete right to occur where this play bar is, make sure that you then hover your gold bar in the same spot as the play bar. So now I'll hit W here, and we've trimmed off the right side of that clip. So now we have to repeat that same process at the beginning and end of each of these clips. So you can go back here and hover your gold bar here and hit space to play. Hi, I'm Brian. And listen through the entire thing to make sure it's as seamless as you want it to be. Now, since this video is a quick start, I'm demonstrating each essential technique once so we can move as quickly as possible through my complete 10-step workflow. Inside my CapCut Mastery course, though, you'll find this and other full projects broken into short, focused lessons so you can work through them at your own pace and easily return to any technique whenever you need it. You'll edit the entire sample project together with me from beginning to end using my 4K video files, and I'll go much deeper into the tools, techniques, and editing decisions that come up along the way. I'll tell you much more about that at the end of the video, though, so stick around. For now, let's keep going. Now it's time for the fun part, adding B-roll, text, effects, and transitions. So back here in our project, I'm going to click up here on All to go back to our folder view. I'll double-click on B-roll. If you use a good camera and mic and lights, but don't understand your camera settings and your footage is underexposed, so notice there I talk about underexposed, or even worse, overexposed and overexposed, okay? So you see in the B-roll here, we have an underexposed clip and an overexposed clip. So I will click on that and drag it and drop it above my A-roll clip. And when I let go, notice we now have 2 tracks on our timeline. So now it's a matter of feeling out where that B-roll clip should go and trimming it accordingly. But watch what happens here. In lights, but don't understand your camera settings and your footage is underexposed. Notice we have 2 different audio tracks. That's because my B-roll has audio on it. So there's 2 ways you can solve that problem. If you have any expectation that one or more of your B-roll clips will need to have the audio heard, then for any B-roll clip that should be silent, you would simply click on it, go up here to audio, and drag and drop the volume down to 0. If you know that you don't need the audio on any of your B-roll clips, you can simply go over here and click on this speaker icon to mute the entire track. And that way, regardless of the audio level on any clip, all of your B-roll would be muted. So that's what I'm going to do. So now when I click on this and play, don't understand your camera settings and your footage is underexposed, we no longer hear the audio from our B-roll. So let's adjust this to figure out where that B-roll should start. So I'll click on it and move it out of the way, but don't understand your camera settings and your footage is underexposed. So I'm going to start it there. There's where my and is going to be. So I'll just click on this guy and shorten it up a little bit and then slide it over until it snaps against that play cursor. So now when I click on it, and mic and lights, but don't understand your camera settings and your footage is underexposed, and I'll control to zoom in on this a little bit. Notice that B-roll appears at exactly the right time. But then I talk about overexposed. Camera settings and your footage is underexposed, or even worse, overexposed, or even worse occurs right there. So I'm going to move over here until my cursor turns to that vertical bar, click on that, and pull it in. It's right about there. Or even worse, I'll click here to put the play bar where it needs to be, and then click on this and zoom in until it snaps. Then I'll grab the overexposed clip and pull that down here. And notice these don't snap. You can move them wherever you want. I'll shrink this up a little bit and then snap it, and then click right above here, underexposed, or even worse, overexposed, and this is where it's going to end. So again, I'll move over here until that cursor turns to a vertical bar and then slide it over and snap it. So now we have those two underexposed and overexposed clips there. So I'll click here and I'll play. But don't understand your camera settings and your footage is underexposed, or even worse, overexposed, you'll spend a lot of time. So that tells the story perfectly. You spend less time compensating for poor quality. And now creative enhancements there, I'm going to grab this still and show you how you can drag a still image in and do the same thing. And more time making creative. So right when I say making, and I'll control and zoom in a little bit here so we can get this more accurate. More time making creative and perfect. And then I'm going to extend this a little bit to that edit right there. Quality and more time making creative enhancements that strengthen your message. And now notice, you've got to be careful sometimes. We see that at the bottom of this image, you can still see the video and at the top as well. So what we have to do is click on that and then move it upward so that the image is covering the top of the video. Then grab this little corner dot down here and pull it outward until it hits the bottom. Then you can grab it and move it around and center it, but always make sure that you're covering the top, left, bottom, and right of your video. And notice you can put this image anywhere you want to. If you just wanted to show the image on the screen, you could do that. And since it is a clip, you can click on animation and adjustments the same way you could with your video. So if this image didn't look perfect, you could adjust the exposure, the shadows, and all that stuff. Like for example, I'll pull the shadows up a little bit. So all the same things you can do with your video, you can do with images as well. So again, I'll grab that and put it up here and then start pulling it and then slide it down, put it up there again, pull a little bit more, slide it down. And now when I slid it down that time, it's covering both the top and the bottom, and we can still see the text in the frame. And now we talked about animation, so let's go ahead and make this thing pop a little bit more. If I click on the image and go to animation, it's important to understand that you can do in automations, out automations, and then combo automations. In means an animation that's going to happen when this image or video appears on the screen. Out is the opposite. That will happen when it's on the way out. So you can scroll through and look at the names of these various animations and hover over them to kind of see what they do and determine which one feels right for you. It's also important to know that you've got this favorites area here. So when you are looking through these things, you can hover over them and click on the star for the ones you like best, and those are going to show up here in your favorites area. So that shake slide right there looks kind of cool. I'll favorite that one, and I'll click on that. When you click on any animation, you can adjust the duration of that animation down here at the bottom. So this control applies to whichever animation is selected. I'll click out here and hit the spacebar to play. More time making creative enhancements so you can see how much more dynamic that is. And now instead of that just popping off the screen, let's click on this guy and click on animation again and click on out and find something dynamic, flash out. Okay, I'll click on that one and click here to play again. And more time making creative enhancements that strengthen your message. Lighting, for example. That's cool. It's almost like turning a TV off, and if you hover over it, you can kind of get a sense for what's going to happen. Okay, moving on. My Independent Creator Academy program, well, I want to put a banner at the bottom when I say that. And this is where things get pretty cool. Because again, if I go back to text, you can see I can click on this and drag it down here. And then when I click on the text, I can type in Independent Creator Academy and use the scale slider to shrink it down a bit, and then you can click on it and move it wherever you want. Now the problem with this though is there's no background behind it and it's not fancy at all. So CapCut does have the ability for you to click on the text element and then expand these presets and click on various presets to get different kinds of bold text looks. And that's cool too, but again, you just wind up with a very static text banner. You can change the size of the font, but that grows and shrinks that banner. You can change the font, of course, by clicking here and selecting some other sort of font that's more appealing to you. We can use the opacity slider to make it slightly translucent. That's kind of cool. And you can see this preset is using the background much like we did earlier in this video. And again, you can click and move this around. You can use these resize bars. You can use this little guy right here at the bottom to rotate whatever direction you want to. So that's cool. I'll Control Z that. Of course, you can use animation both in and out to make the text do interesting things. And notice the set of animations you get here for text is completely different than the animations you get for the other elements we were playing with before. So this is the kind of text stuff most other trainers will tell you about. What I want to show you though is something I feel like many people are sleeping on. I'm going to click on this to delete it and go over here to text again, but expand text template. And what's really cool about text template is, again, they've got these categories over here, hits, icons, title, and so on. They have all these pre-designed animations of text that do a lot of cool stuff. And as long as you can find one that matches your brand and your vision, they can do some very heavy lifting with extremely minimal effort. So again, click on any one of these things and then move your cursor around to kind of see what it's going to do. So notice at the beginning of this, there's nothing there. Then this purple bar is going to show up and this text is all going to slide out. And now you can't really change the visuals of that at all, but when you do place something like this onto the timeline, notice there are 3 pieces of text. And the way they did that is by using carriage returns. If you were to go up here and delete these 2 bottom ones, now it's just going to be that one line. So when I drag my slider over this, that's a pretty cool thing. And again, you click on it, you can resize it. And if this was the right color for my brand, I could type in Independent Creator Academy. Now I can move this around and scale it just right so that when I click on the playhead now, Independent Creator Academy, that's a little too late, so I'll pull it back to the left. My Independent Creator Academy program will help you choose the... So look how powerful that is. In literally seconds, I was able to put this fairly advanced looking graphic on the screen. My Independent Creator Academy program will... And unfortunately, I can't change that color because it's all kind of baked in. So that's why I was saying you sort of skim through these various categories and click and hover to see what these things do. And look at that. Look how... Actually, let me get rid of this one so it's not clouding our vision here. When you click on this guy and scroll around, look at how much complexity happens here. It's insane. So if I click on this guy and drop it down here and click on it, you can resize this, move it around, whatever you want to. But again, if I change this to my very cool, and then I'll change Arabia to summer, and then I'll change this to vacation in the Bahamas or something like that. Now, notice my very cool summer vacation in the Bahamas, all that stuff is going to happen for free just because I changed those 3 lines of text. My Independent Creator Academy program will help. So again, I feel like these text templates are very much slept on because there are so many different combinations and you can scroll for days on here. And again, when you find something you like, go ahead and click on that little star there to add it to your favorites. And then that will show up under this Yours section here. But notice if you go to Effects, that'll be your favorite effects, which I think are these guys. And then you've got to click on that tab there to go to Text Templates. So now we've done B-roll, text, effects. We didn't really talk about transitions yet, but I can demonstrate that here between these 2 clips. Notice these are just right now butt splices. Here, the right settings and the right just chops, okay? So if I control and zoom in on this, I can go to transitions and find some kind of reasonable transition. I tend to like crossfades. So if I type in fade here, crossfade, there we go. So I'll click on crossfade and drag that down right on top of those 2 clips where they split. It says clips are too short for a transition, which isn't usually good because it'll make things look choppy, but I'll click OK anyway and see what happens. When I click here, gear, the right settings, and the right skills, there we go, not too bad. Equip yourself with the right gear, the right settings, and the right skills. So that's the way you use transitions. You drag and drop them into the split of any 2 clips to make them pass between each other in a more pleasing way. There are so many transitions you can choose from, so it's up to you to drag and drop some of them on there. Okay, so next is music. Notice there's no track down here at the bottom, but if I go to the audio tab, we've got this entire array of categorized music. And all you need to do is click on any one of these and click on this one. I actually know the one I was looking for is in travel, I think. And I think it's Summer Dance Vibes. Let me see. Yep, that's the one. And it's really a matter of clicking on it and dragging it underneath your A-roll. And notice it went over here in the center, so I'll have to control and zoom back a little bit to get the big picture. Then click and drag my music track so it's completely under this. The most important thing with music is making sure it's not too loud and doesn't overpower your voice. So for example, right now, helps creators build professional home way too loud. So you click on your music, and usually you're going to go up here to the volume and pull it down to maybe -20 or so. -20 or so is going to be a good volume. Independent Creator Academy program helps creators build professional home video studios and confidently create videos that generate Okay, and now that I'm at the end here, I'm going to click on that one and go up to Fade Out. I'm going to fade it out in about 1 second. Okay, so now visit independentcreatoracademy.com/waitlist to secure your spot. The music fades out at the end. So now I'll zoom backwards again, control backwards mouse wheel, and you can see we've got A roll, B roll, we've got some effects in here and other B rolls. We've got our title at the end there, and then we've got the music. So there you go. All right, so back to our slides. We just added B-roll, text, effects, and transitions, and I accidentally included music in that step as well. And notice we have to recheck the audio using the level meter. So let's go do that quick. Again, I'll click on this level meter right there, and I'll click here to sample various parts of the project by clicking play. Using no lights at all, and I'm watching to see if I ever exceed -1. Lights at all, or just using room lights will instantly kill. So notice everything's pretty good with the audio. Even after we added the music, we are still at -1. Now we're going to want to inspect, export, and make a backup. Exporting is obviously the most important part because that's how we get a final product that we can upload to YouTube or Instagram and so on. So I'm not going to play through this whole thing and take up all your time, but what you're going to want to do is place the cursor at the beginning, hit space. Hi, I'm Brian. And play through the whole video and watch and see if it's lacking something. Maybe you add in a little bit more text templates or perhaps some transitions. Maybe you put in a sound effect where it does that little zoom in thing we did here. Powerful. But the better your original video looks and sounds, the better there you go. So now we've got sound effects, music, the whole deal, okay? So again, that was part of my review. I decided I wanted to do something a little bit more interesting on those cuts. So let's say I've reviewed the whole thing, good to go. I've checked my audio. Now we have to export it by clicking the export button here at the top right. So I click on export. And again, this is where we're going to want to choose the export to. You're always going to be explicit and choose a folder where you want this output file to go. So I'll click on this folder and I'll navigate to my current project file, which as you recall was work, video projects, sample project. And my habit is to right click in there and create a new folder called output. I always do that and double click on that and select that as the folder. Then you can choose if you want it to be 4K or 1080p. Whatever you record it at is pretty much what you're going to want to output at. I personally feel like 4K on YouTube is great, but 1080p for online courses is what I tend to use for Kajabi. Again, MP4, 30 frames per second. H.264 is correct, and I always choose a higher bit rate because I want highest quality. And notice it says duration is 2 minutes, 4 seconds, and the size is going to be about 350 megabytes. So I'll click export. And for some reason, it plays the file at the end. I'm not a fan of that, but it'll start playing when it's done. Hi, I'm Brian. Okay, so my Independent Creator Academy program helps close button there. And then I can bring my project folder back up and click here to go to the top level of my project folder and look for my output. Double click on that. And sure enough, we see a 400 megabyte file. And if you right click on it and select properties and click on details, you'll see that it's in fact 3840 by 2160. There's your 4K. And that's the same size as my video files. Double click to play it. Hi, I'm Brian. My Independent Creator Academy program helps creators build professional home video studios and confidently create videos that generate attention, authority, and income. You get the idea. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but there's your output file, and you would upload that to YouTube or wherever you want it to go. And now one last little tip here is 4K videos are perfect as a base for creating vertical videos. And what I mean by that is you would click on this aspect ratio over here, and you can change this to 9:16, for example. You can take a 4K horizontal clip and you can essentially crop it in to a 9:16 vertical. I'm not going to go into that in this video because we're already super long here, but if you want to check out my CapCut Mastery course at independentcreatoracademy.com, I'll be showcasing things like that in there. And now the last thing we have to do is back this dang thing up. So first I'm going to close the project and close CapCut. And as you recall, my project folder is here on my work external drive. So I've got shortcuts for my hard drives out there, so I can double click on that one and move my B to the side here, and notice they are symmetrical in their file structure. So all I need to do to back this up, if I already had a video projects folder over here, I can simply double click in there and then right click and copy that here. Since I don't have video projects here, I'm starting from scratch. I'll go back to the top here and right click on this and then let go and say copy here. So now I am copying that entire video projects directory over to my B drive. I've just backed it up, so in case for some reason this drive fails, I've got a backup copy over here. And yes, if I go in here and I change this at some point, I'll go inside here as well, and oftentimes just right click and delete that, and then right click and copy the modified version back over here. So you do have to keep track of it, but I believe it's worth it to not lose data. And that completes my entire 10-step video editing workflow. You've now seen how to take raw footage, improve the picture and sound, tighten the pacing, and then add B-roll, text, effects, transitions, and music, then inspect, export, and safely back up the finished project so you never lose work. So you don't simply know where CapCut features are, you understand how they work together inside a repeatable workflow you can use on every video you create. Now, this quick start was intentionally designed to move fast. I demonstrated each essential technique once so I could teach you the complete workflow without making you watch me perform the same type of edit over and over like I do when I edit a whole project. But inside my complete CapCut Mastery course, you'll edit this entire sample project with me from beginning to end using my 4K video files. And instead of trying to follow one extremely long video, the course is organized into shorter, focused modules and lessons. That means you can work through it at your own pace, stop whenever you need to, and easily return to any specific technique without searching through a long video timeline. Inside the course, I'll go deeper into the tools and techniques I introduced here and explain more about the decisions I'm making as they occur. You'll also get additional modules covering things like a deeper exploration of CapCut's effects, how to find and use footage from CapCut's built-in B-roll library, how to create and customize professional-looking captions, and how to transform a single horizontal 4K long-form video into multiple 1080p vertical videos. That makes it easy to record and publish one long-form YouTube video and then repurpose it into multiple reusable shorts, reels, and other vertical content without re-recording everything again from scratch. And because CapCut continues to change and add new features, the CapCut Mastery course will adapt with it. I'll continue updating and expanding it as new tools, features, and workflows become available, so you can return whenever you need help keeping up with the software. To see the complete course curriculum, the latest enrollment details, and everything currently included in CapCut Mastery, click the link in the description or pinned comment below. Watching someone edit can help you understand the process, but putting your own hands on the tools and the timeline is how you actually learn to do it confidently. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like and a subscribe. I have a lot more practical training coming up to help you create better videos, build authority, and turn what you know into income. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.